My wife wanted a divorce after getting fits and she thought she deserved better. But her decision backfired right away. I, 38 em, just a regular guy working as an IT tech for a local company, never imagined the day my wife would walk into the kitchen and casually announce she was done with our marriage. We'd been together for almost 10 years, married for 7. We got along well enough, routine dinners, shared chores, the usual ups and downs. But a few months ago, something changed. My wife joined a fancy new gym downtown, embracing a strict diet and personal trainer sessions. At first, I supported her wholeheartedly, proud that she found motivation to improve her health. She lost weight, toned her muscles, started flaunting designer clothes. But with each pound shed, her attitude shifted from cooperative partner to smug critic. She'd throw sly comments like, "I could have done so much better if I'd only focused on myself earlier." Or, "Not everyone settles so young." I tried not to read too much into it, but tension built. She'd criticize my appearance, my job, even the way I did laundry. One morning, sipping her green smoothie, she said, "I'm not happy. I think I need to explore other options." I stood there, stunned. She spelled it out, "I'm filing for divorce." I asked why. She shrugged. "I've outgrown this marriage. Look at me now. I have a whole world of opportunities, and I'm stuck with you." The entitlement was shocking. She acted like our years together were a mere stepping stone toward a better deal. I felt anger, hurt, and disbelief swirling inside me. But I kept calm. "If that's what you want," I said quietly, "then do what you must." Later that week, I got official notice from her lawyer. She wanted a quick divorce. I consulted a lawyer myself. He explained the basics. In our no-fault state, she could just walk away. But she was asking for a generous settlement, more than her fair share. She wanted the house, a chunk of my savings, and spousal support, even though she worked full-time and earned a decent salary. Pure entitlement. I refused. My lawyer said, "We can negotiate, but brace yourself. She's clearly trying to leverage her new confidence to squeeze you dry." I nodded grimly. That's when I decided I wouldn't just roll over. I'd fight back, calmly and methodically. If she thought her newfound attractiveness gave her the right to discard me and profit, she'd learn the hard way that I wasn't so easily beaten. We'd entered mediation. She showed up wearing a sleek dress, tossing her newly styled hair, making snide remarks about how I let myself go. She hinted I never tried to improve myself, as if that justified her dumping me. I kept my composure, answered questions politely, and refused her outrageous demands. Mediation ended abruptly, with no agreement. She left furious, muttering that she'd get the judge on her side. In private, I began gathering evidence, bank statements, proof of her financial independence, text messages where she bragged to a friend about upgrading her life. If she wanted a fight, I'd give her one. I wouldn't be her doormat. A few weeks passed, and we found ourselves in a pre-trial settlement conference. Her lawyer argued she deserved extra support because I'd held her back while she invested time in getting in shape. Ridiculous. She had a stable job, no children to care for, and she chose to spend time at the gym. I never stopped her. I pointed this out to my lawyer, who smirked. "Don't worry, a judge will see through that." Meanwhile, my wife's behavior grew more entitled. She stopped by the house, still sharing property until settlement, to pick up some belongings and left snarky notes about how I should start hitting the gym, or maybe find a better job. I ignored these provocations, but I documented everything. My lawyer advised that showing her harassment and belittling behavior could influence the judge's perception of her credibility. As trial approached, I learned she'd been dating a co-worker from her gym circle, a smooth-talking guy who apparently adored her new look. She made no secret of it, parading him at local restaurants where mutual acquaintances could see. Word got back to me. Instead of feeling jealous, I felt strangely resolved. Let her enjoy the spotlight. I focused on my strategy. My lawyer filed a motion to ensure fair division of assets based on our contributions and current incomes. We highlighted that she earned almost the same as me now, and in some months, even more due to her side consulting work. We exposed how she'd suddenly adopted a narrative that I was lazy and unambitious. Yet we had old messages and emails where she praised my stability and support. These contradictions would matter in court. She tried dirty tricks too. One morning I got a call from my credit card company alerting me to suspicious charges. She'd tried to use a joint credit line we never used regularly. It was still in both names. My mistake for not canceling it earlier. She'd booked a luxury spa weekend. I disputed the charge and reported it to my lawyer. This showed her willingness to exploit shared finances, even as we were divorcing. In our state, the judge looks at marital assets acquired during the marriage. Most of our wealth was in a modest house and some savings. She demanded the house, claiming she deserved a nice place. I offered a buyout option. If she wanted the house, pay me half its equity. She balked, said I should just give it to her because she needed to maintain her new lifestyle. Entitlement again. As court day neared, my lawyer and I had a plan. Expose her contradictory claims, show she was fully capable of supporting herself, and highlight her attempts at financial manipulation. We also gathered character witnesses, friends who knew I'd been supportive while she reinvented herself. When asked, they confirmed I never hindered her growth. This would counter her claim that I held her back. I felt a cold determination settle in. I once loved her dearly, but the person standing before me now seemed like a stranger. If she thought good looks and a better figure gave her permission to crush me under her heel, she'd discover that the legal system wouldn't indulge her fantasies. Court day arrived. We sat on opposite sides, our lawyers whispering strategies. My wife wore a fitted suit, chin raised, confident she could charm the room. I wore something simple and neat, focusing on facts, not theatrics. The judge entered. We rose, and proceedings began. Her lawyer started with a sob story, how she'd grown as a person, realized her marriage was stifling, and now needed compensation to move forward. He painted me as complacent, unwilling to meet her new standards. My lawyer patiently waited, then began dismantling their argument. He presented financial documents showing her stable income, her lavish spending spree on the joint credit line, and her mocking notes. I watched her face as each piece of evidence fell like a hammer. The judge's eyes narrowed at the credit card stunt. My lawyer then questioned her fitness claims. Did he ever stop you from going to the gym? She admitted no. Did he ever prevent you from advancing your career? Again, no. Each answer chipped away at her narrative of victimhood. We introduced text messages from her to her friend. I'm finally hot enough to get a real catch. Gonna dump him and upgrade. The friend's reply. Careful. He might not go down without a fight. The courtroom fell silent as the judge read these messages. My wife squirmed, realizing the mask of innocence was slipping. Under cross-examination, she got defensive. She tried to justify her words. I was venting. I didn't mean it literally. The judge seemed unimpressed. My lawyer emphasized that these messages showed her mindset, treating the divorce as a transaction to move on to a better deal, not as a mutual breakup. When it came to dividing assets, her demands seemed outrageous now. The judge questioned why she needed so much support if she was so independent and successful. She stammered about wanting to maintain a certain quality of life. The judge reminded her that divorce in our state aims for fairness, not luxury at the other spouse's expense. Then came a twist I hadn't expected. The man she'd been dating? He submitted a sworn statement through his lawyer that they discussed marriage down the line. This wasn't required, but my lawyer discovered he had a financial motive. He assumed she'd secure big assets from me, possibly to fund their future together. My lawyer presented this statement, showing that she'd effectively planned to profit from our divorce and move on swiftly. The judge looked visibly irritated with her. She tried to claim this was all a misunderstanding, that she never intended to remarry so soon. But the damage was done. Her credibility was shredded. When the judge delivered the ruling, it was surprisingly firm. The house would be split equitably. No spousal support awarded, given both our similar incomes. She'd owe me reimbursement for the contested credit card charges. The judge admonished her for her entitled attitude, noting that her attempt to paint herself as a victim backfired due to her own messages. Outside the courtroom, she approached me with tears in her eyes. "I never thought it would end like this," she whispered. Gone was the arrogance, replaced by regret. "I made a mistake. I was caught up in my new lifestyle. We can still talk, right? Maybe we don't have to go through with all this." I looked at her calmly. "You filed for divorce. You said you could do better. Now the judge made it clear you won't profit from this." I paused, letting my words sink in. "I gave you loyalty and respect. You threw it away." She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. "What's done is done," she pleaded. "I'll drop the divorce. We can work on things." I shook my head. "I'm not interested. You showed me who you are when you thought you were on top." Her face crumpled. She now realized how her entitled gambit failed. No sweet words or apologies would undo the damage. I nodded to my lawyer, who stood nearby, signaling that it was time to finalize the paperwork and move on. Over the next few weeks, we completed the formalities. She moved her belongings out of the house, which I decided to sell anyway. I'd get half the equity, enough to start fresh someplace else. The relationship ended with her gaining nothing extra, just the bitter memory of how she overplayed her hand. I didn't celebrate or gloat publicly. I simply moved forward with my life, free from her toxic games. A few mutual friends commented on her regret. She complained to them that she made a rash decision, that she shouldn't have tried to squeeze me dry. But none of that mattered. The court order stood, and I had no desire to reconcile. She'd face the consequences of her arrogance. Word got around that her new boyfriend vanished once he realized she wasn't bringing in a windfall. She ended up alone, minus the marital perks she'd once enjoyed. In the end, I learned that not all transformations are positive. She improved her physique, but lost her moral compass. She saw me as disposable, a stepping stone. Instead, I stood my ground, refused to be exploited, and came out with my dignity intact. If she thought she'd regret leaving only if the money wasn't good enough, well, she got what she deserved. Actions have consequences. With my share of the equity, I'm looking forward to a quieter place, maybe a smaller home, closer to the city. I still do my job, still enjoy simple hobbies. I'm not bitter, just wiser. She wanted to upgrade at my expense, and ended up downgrading herself into a pit of regret.
My fiancée left me at the altar for her ex, and I think it was planned. So I need to get this out because I'm still processing what the hell just happened 3 days ago. Background: I've been with Rebecca, 29F, for 3 years. She works in marketing for some tech startup. I own a small construction company in Orange County that I built from nothing after getting out of the Marines. Things moved fast but felt right. We got engaged last Christmas and spent the last year planning what was supposed to be our dream wedding. The wedding was at the Montage in Laguna Beach. Not cheap, but we'd saved up for 2 years and wanted it to be special. My whole family flew in from Kansas, her family's local, plus friends from college, work, the Marines. I was wearing my grandfather's cufflinks. She wore her grandmother's pearls. Everything seemed perfect that morning. Here's where it gets completely messed up. During the ceremony, right when the officiant asks if anyone objects, you know, that part that's supposed to be just ceremonial bullshit that nobody takes seriously, this guy Tyler stands up from the back row. Rebecca never mentioned he was coming, and I sure as hell didn't invite him. For context, Tyler is Rebecca's ex from about 3 years ago. Real bad boy type, leather jacket, motorcycle, works as a bartender at some dive in downtown Santa Ana. Rebecca always said he was too immature and irresponsible. That's supposedly why they broke up. Rebecca said they were completely over and hadn't spoken in years. So Tyler stands up and starts talking, loud enough for everyone to hear, completely confident like he'd rehearsed this. He says I'm controlling and emotionally abusive, and that Rebecca is too scared to break up with me because I've isolated her from her friends. Says she still loves him and he can make her happy in ways I never could. Says he's here to rescue her from a life of misery. The whole chapel goes dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. My groomsmen looked ready to tackle this guy. My mom gasped so loud I heard it from the altar. Rebecca's parents looked mortified. I'm standing there in my tux, totally blindsided. My first thought was this guy's having some kind of breakdown, or maybe he was drunk or on something. I looked at Rebecca expecting her to shut this down, maybe call security, definitely tell Tyler to get the hell out. She didn't. She just stood there shaking, still holding her bouquet, looking back and forth between me and Tyler. The officiant asked if she wanted to continue with the ceremony, and after what felt like forever, she said no. She said Tyler was right about everything, that she'd been miserable with me but didn't know how to end it, that I was controlling and she felt trapped, that she loves Tyler and always has, and she can't marry me knowing that. Then she took off her engagement ring, handed it to me along with her bouquet, walked down the aisle, took Tyler's hand, and they left together. Just like that, in front of everyone. The chapel was chaos after that. People didn't know what to do. Some followed them outside, others just sat there in shock. The photographer was still taking pictures like maybe this was part of the ceremony somehow. The reception was already paid for, so people kind of awkwardly hung around for a while. The hotel manager was amazing. She handled everything professionally and made sure the vendors got sorted out. My groomsmen were incredible too. They kept people away from me while I figured out what to do next. My mom was crying. Her mom kept apologizing over and over, saying she had no idea. It was a complete nightmare. I ended up changing out of my tux in the hotel room we'd booked for the wedding night and driving home while my brothers dealt with the aftermath. Most humiliating day of my life, hands down. I'm back home now trying to make sense of this. Part of me keeps thinking there has to be more to the story. Rebecca never seemed unhappy. We had normal relationship disagreements, but nothing major. The timing feels way too convenient. Tyler just happening to be there, having the balls to interrupt a wedding, knowing exactly what to say to make me sound like an abuser. Something doesn't add up. I found some weird charges on our joint account from the past few weeks, nothing huge, but stuff I didn't recognize. Random cash withdrawals, some online purchases that don't make sense. I'm going to look into it more tomorrow when the bank opens. I don't even know what I'm asking for here. Advice, validation that this is as fucked up as it seems, how to handle the fact that half our town thinks I'm some kind of monster now. I feel like I'm trapped in a bad movie and can't find the exit. Has anyone been through something like this? How do you even begin to move on? How do you trust your judgment about people after something like this? Edit, to answer some questions. Yes, we lived together for about 18 months. All our stuff is mixed up at the house we were renting in Irvine. No, I haven't heard from her since she left the chapel. Her phone goes straight to voicemail. Update 1: you guys were right to be suspicious. This gets so much worse than I originally thought. First, thank you to everyone who reached out. The support has honestly been the only thing keeping me sane this week. So I went to the bank Monday morning to look at those charges I mentioned. I brought all our joint account documentation and asked to see detailed statements going back 3 months. The banker was really helpful once I explained the situation. Apparently, wedding fraud isn't uncommon. Turns out Rebecca had been making small cash withdrawals for about 3 weeks, $50 here, $80 there. Nothing that would trigger alerts or that I'd notice in our day-to-day expenses. But it adds up to about $800 total. When I asked to see detailed online purchase history, I found something that made my blood run cold. She bought 2 plane tickets to New York, round trip, departing Saturday morning, the day after our wedding, returning the following Thursday. Let that sink in. While we were supposed to be on our honeymoon in Maui, while I was stressing about final headcounts and vendor payments, she was booking a romantic getaway with her ex-boyfriend. For the day after our freaking wedding, I called the airline to confirm the details. The tickets were purchased 3 weeks ago in Rebecca Thompson and Tyler Morrison's names, using our joint Bank of America account. 5-day trip to JFK, hotel booked through Expedia at some boutique place in Manhattan. They're probably there right now, pretending this was some spontaneous romantic gesture. But here's the kicker. Since the tickets were purchased with our joint account, I had authorization to make changes to the reservation. So I called back and canceled their return flights. Both of them. They can figure out how to get home on their own dime. I also went to the bank and cleaned out our shared checking and savings accounts. Legally, it's all money I earned anyway since Rebecca just had access for wedding expenses and household bills. She contributed maybe 20% of what was in there. I left exactly enough to cover her half of this month's rent and utilities, but that's it. The account is now closed. Found more evidence too. Rebecca's laptop was still at the house, and when I opened it, I found her browser history. She'd been researching how to break up with someone you live with and ending engagement without losing deposits for weeks. Also found Google searches for romantic weekend getaways New York, dating back a month. What really pisses me off is how calculated the whole wedding day scene was. Tyler wasn't some desperate ex making a last-ditch effort to win her back. This was performance art. What really gets me is how unnecessary it was. She could have just broken up with me 6 months ago. Yes, it would have been embarrassing to cancel a wedding. We would have lost some deposits, but people would have understood. Couples get cold feet, relationships end, life happens. Instead, she chose to humiliate me in front of everyone I care about, frame me as an abuser, and make her look like the victim who needed rescuing. All because she didn't have it in her to admit she cheated. I've been staying at my buddy Dave's place in Newport because being in our apartment makes me physically sick. The smell of her perfume is still everywhere. Her coffee mug is still in the sink from Friday morning. It's like a crime scene. Yesterday I went back to pack up all of Rebecca's stuff. I wasn't going to be petty about it. I carefully folded and boxed everything up. It took 4 hours to pack everything properly. I used good boxes, bubble wrap for fragile stuff, even labeled everything clearly. I wanted to handle this like a grown-up. Then I loaded it all in my work truck and drove to her parents' house. Her mom answered the door looking absolutely mortified. She started crying the moment she saw me. I didn't say anything dramatic, just, "These are Rebecca's belongings," and started unloading boxes. Mrs. Thompson kept apologizing and trying to help carry stuff. She said Rebecca hadn't come home yet and they didn't know where she was staying. The only note I left was a printed copy of the bank statement showing the New York tickets. Her dad called me about an hour later. He was furious, not at me, at Rebecca. Apparently Rebecca told them she was having some doubts about the wedding, but never mentioned Tyler or that they'd been in contact. Mr. Thompson actually asked if there was anything he could do to help cover the wedding expenses, which was more than decent of him. I told him the deposits were my problem to deal with, but I appreciated the gesture. He said Rebecca's actions were unforgivable and that he was ashamed of his daughter. That actually made me feel a little better. My phone has been absolutely blowing up since word got around about what really happened. Mutual friends are pissed. My cousin Sarah posted something on Facebook about wedding crashers and home wreckers without naming names, but everyone in our circle knows exactly who she's talking about. It's gotten shared like 50 times already. Work has been a good distraction. We're in the middle of a big commercial renovation project downtown, and my crew has been awesome about not asking too many questions. Physical labor helps when your brain won't shut up. Edit. A few people have asked about the tickets. Yes, I have screenshots of everything before I canceled them. I've documented all of this in case I need it later. Tyler's older brother Jake reached out to me directly through Facebook. He said Tyler has been obsessed with Rebecca since they broke up 3 years ago, and Jake tried to talk him out of whatever this plan was. Jake apologized for his brother's behavior and said he'd help pay me back for the canceled tickets if I wanted. Seems like a stand-up guy who's embarrassed by his family. To the people saying I should pursue legal action, I've got a consultation with a lawyer friend on Friday. The joint account thing might be complicated, but using shared funds to plan an affair while engaged might qualify as theft or fraud. We'll see. Update 2. Holy shit, you guys. This situation went completely nuclear and I'm still processing what happened. Rebecca crossed a line I didn't even know existed. So after my last update about canceling their flights and closing the bank account, I thought that would be the end of it. I figured they'd find their own way home and I could start moving on with my life. Boy, was I wrong. Monday morning, my phone started blowing up. Rebecca called me 17 times between 6 a.m. and noon. When I didn't answer, she started texting, then calling from Tyler's phone, then from random numbers. The messages started out pathetic and apologetic, but quickly turned desperate and then hostile. Some examples of what she was sending: Michael, please pick up. We're stuck here and I'm scared. Tyler is freaking out and blaming me for everything. I need to come home. I know you're getting these messages. Stop being cruel. This is exactly the kind of controlling behavior I was talking about. That last one pissed me off because I wasn't controlling anything. I was just no longer funding her romantic getaway with another man. But I still didn't respond because honestly, what was the point? Tuesday evening, she finally got me on the phone. I was at Dave's place and made the mistake of answering a call from a number I didn't recognize. The conversation that followed was absolutely unhinged. Rebecca started out crying and begging me to fix this and send them money for flights home. When I told her that wasn't my problem anymore, she completely changed tactics. She said I was proving everything she said about me was true, and that canceling their flights was financial abuse. When I laughed at that and said she could ask Tyler's family for help since he was such a catch, she went full psycho. She said if I didn't send them $2,000 for flights and expenses immediately, she would make sure everyone in Orange County knew what kind of person I really was. She said she had been protecting me by not telling people about how I really treated her, but that she'd been documenting everything for months. She claimed she had photos of bruises I gave her. Complete bullshit. I never laid a hand on her. Recordings of me screaming at her, also bullshit. And text messages that would prove I was emotionally abusive. She said she'd post everything on social media, send it to my clients, contact my family members, and destroy my reputation if I didn't help her get home. I told her I'd recorded our conversation and hung up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the people at the wedding who heard her call me abusive. My business clients who might be wondering if there was any truth to it. My family members who were probably second-guessing everything they thought they knew about me. I realized that staying quiet and taking the high road was just giving her time to craft whatever narrative she wanted. She was already threatening to lie about me. What was stopping her from following through whether I paid her or not? Wednesday morning, I made a decision. If Rebecca wanted to play dirty, I'd show her what actual evidence looked like. I spent 3 hours putting together a comprehensive Facebook post with every piece of documentation I had. Bank statements showing the secret flight purchases. Screenshots of her browser history planning the breakup for weeks. Photos of me respectfully returning all her belongings. I also included screenshots of some of her text messages from the past few days. I ended the post by saying that while I was hurt by the wedding situation, I was sharing this information to protect myself against false allegations and to set the record straight about what actually happened. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 6 hours, the post had been shared over 300 times. The comments were brutal, people calling Rebecca a sociopath, a scammer, a master manipulator. Mutual friends were apologizing for believing her version of events. People I barely knew were reaching out to offer support. Several people commented that this behavior was consistent with other things they'd witnessed, but never said anything about. Rebecca's college roommate revealed that Rebecca had cheated on her previous boyfriend with Tyler, then dumped Tyler when she met someone with more money. A guy from her marketing firm said she'd been flirting with him for months despite being engaged. By Thursday, Rebecca's Instagram and Facebook were getting flooded with comments. People asking how she could do this to someone, calling her manipulative, tagging her employer's official accounts. Tyler got hit even worse. Someone called his bar and told them about the wedding situation. When they looked up the social media posts and saw Tyler was one of their employees, they suspended him immediately. Apparently, multiple customers had already called to complain after recognizing him. Thursday afternoon, Rebecca called me one more time. She was sobbing and begging me to take the post down, saying people were calling her work and she was afraid she'd lose her job. She admitted the whole wedding thing was Tyler's idea, but claimed she just went along with it because she was confused and didn't know how to handle the situation. The complete lack of accountability was stunning. Even when confronted with screenshots of her threatening to blackmail me, she tried to frame it as desperation rather than manipulation. She said I was ruining her life over one mistake. I told her that threatening someone's reputation and livelihood isn't a mistake, it's extortion. I said if she wanted the post taken down, she could start by publicly apologizing for the false abuse allegations and paying me back for the wedding expenses. She hung up on me. An hour later, Tyler called from a different number. He was furious, saying I had no right to destroy Rebecca's career and that he was going to come back and handle this personally. When I pointed out that he was currently stranded 3,000 miles away because of his own choices, he started backpedaling. Turns out they've been staying in some cheap hostel in Brooklyn and eating gas station food because Tyler can't get hired anywhere and Rebecca's been too embarrassed to call her parents for help. Tyler's been trying to pick up day labor jobs, but it's not enough for 2 plane tickets. The best part of all this has been the support from my community. My business phone has been ringing non-stop with people offering work and expressing support. One potential client specifically said that seeing how I handled this situation made him want to work with me because it showed integrity under pressure. My family has been incredible too. My dad called to say he was proud of how I stood up for myself. My sister drove down from LA just to make sure I was okay. Having people rally around you when someone tries to destroy you feels amazing. I'm keeping the post up. Rebecca chose to threaten me rather than take responsibility for her actions. She made this public the moment she stood up in that chapel and called me abusive. I'm just making sure people know the truth. Edit: to everyone asking about legal updates, my lawyer friend says the financial stuff might qualify as theft by deception, but it would be expensive to pursue and hard to prove intent. The canceled flights were within my legal rights since it was a joint account. I'm focusing on moving forward rather than getting revenge through the courts. Final update. It's been almost a month since my life completely imploded, and I wanted to give everyone a final update because you've all been incredibly supportive throughout this nightmare. First, let me address the practical stuff that's now mostly resolved. I managed to recover about 60% of the wedding deposits, which was way better than I expected. Vendors were surprisingly understanding when I showed them the evidence of what actually happened. The venue manager at the montage said she'd never seen anything like it in 15 years and actually comped all the room charges and coordination fees. The photographer gave me a partial refund and threw in all the raw files from the ceremony for legal purposes. Rebecca did eventually pay me back for exactly half the wedding costs, but only after her father got directly involved. Mr. Anderson called me about 2 weeks ago and apologized again, said he wanted to make things right financially. The check came from their family business account, not Rebecca personally. I appreciated the gesture, but it felt hollow knowing she still wasn't taking personal responsibility for any of it. Speaking of responsibility, I never took down the Facebook post. The social media attention has mostly died down now, but it had some interesting long-term effects. Rebecca apparently had to delete her Instagram and LinkedIn accounts entirely because people wouldn't stop commenting. She also had to leave her marketing job because too many clients recognized her and her company was worried about their reputation. According to mutual friends, she's working retail now while looking for something in her field. Tyler never got his bar job back and has been doing Uber Eats delivery. Tyler and Rebecca broke up before they even made it back from New York. Apparently being stuck in New York with no money and facing social media backlash wasn't as romantic as they expected. Jake said Tyler is realizing he messed up, and Rebecca is completely losing her mind. I feel absolutely nothing about this news, which I'm taking as a good sign for my healing process. Work has been absolutely insane in the best possible way. Word spread throughout the Orange County construction community about how I handled this situation, and somehow it's made people trust me more, not less. I've gotten 3 new major commercial contracts in the past month, including a restaurant renovation that could lead to a whole chain of projects. My crew has been incredible throughout all this. These are guys I've worked with for years, and they had my back completely. When clients or vendors asked about the wedding situation, they vouched for my character without me even asking. Having that professional respect and support meant everything. I've been working out regularly again. I've been reading books she thought were boring. I bought a new mountain bike without asking anyone's permission. Small things, but they add up to feeling like myself again. One really unexpected positive: my relationship with my family has gotten significantly stronger. My parents were devastated about the wedding situation, but watching how I handled everything made them proud in a way they'd never expressed before. My dad told me he always worried I was too soft and that people would take advantage of me, but seeing me stand up for myself and handle adversity changed his entire perspective. My mom said watching me choose dignity over drama reminded her why she raised me the way she did. My sister has been amazing too. She flew out from Kansas 2 weeks ago just to hang out and make sure I was really okay. We spent a weekend hiking and talking through everything. Having family support like that is irreplaceable. I'm doing really well now. Better than well, actually. This community has been absolutely incredible through all of this. Thank you for helping me see clearly when I couldn't think straight. I'm signing off from this saga. Life's good, I'm grateful, and I'm excited about what comes next. Peace, everyone.